Hello, thank you for joining us today at Miniature Wargaming Labs. My name is James,
I'm Brian.
and today we're going to discuss a new miniature wargaming company to the scene, Marvel, with their latest game.
Yes, the small company Marvel has released Crisis Protocol miniature game, distributed through Asmodee and created by Atomic Mass Games.
Now, this is going to, their first game? I haven't heard of them before.
I have actually not heard of Atomic Mass Games before until Crisis Protocol came out. Now, I do not believe they have made other games. I would love to be wrong about this, but this is definitely their biggest game to date.
So, what would you say the theme of this game is?
As the name implies, it is Marvel themed. Superheroes fighting supervillains, or superheroes fighting superheroes, or villains fighting villains.
Well, I'm looking at the box here. What do you need to play this game? Is this kind of like Games Workshop where I buy the box and I don't actually have enough to field the full army? Or am I good to go with just this purchase?
With this one, you will only need the base box to play full game with 2 players. The box comes with terrain, comes with dice, rulers, movement measures, and all the characters you need to play enough games with enough variation that 2 players will not be bored anytime soon.
All right. Who would you say this game is made for specifically? Where does this fit into the universe of games?
This is definitely merging the huge insurgence of comic book movies and the love of comic books coming into the mainstream, meeting with the mainstream of miniature games, their popularity that they're growing. This is definitely the meeting of those two, and definitely aimed at people that are new to the gaming scene, but love comic books. Or it's aimed at the miniature game players that like comic books but wanted to play a Marvel themed game that isn't HeroClix.
So, what kind of mechanics are you going to find with this game? Because I think when I looked through the box, I saw some of like that Fantasy Flight Games DNA of the range markers and the movement markers. How does this game work?
If you've played any Fantasy Flight miniature game, a lot of this will be very familiar to you, especially if you've played Legion. It borrows a lot of the range rulers and the measurement rulers, and of course the proprietary dice. But unlike Legion, you're not moving units, you're moving characters. So a lot of things, each character has different superpowers. Of course, they're superheroes, and each one does something different. So you're going to be building energy throughout the game, and you're going to use that energy to power your superpowers.
Well, let me ask you, since this is targeting the big Marvel, and we're talking about game mechanics, are we going to get into like some game mechanics where like some 11-year-old kid is going to buy this box, open up the rule book, and their parents can't explain it to them?
No, this game is actually very easy to get into and very easy to learn. I actually have the game shop that I work at. We actually had a lot of parents come in and buy this game for their kids and actually have them teach it in a day. The mechanics are actually easy enough to learn that you could actually pare it down a lot of the more complicated mechanics, which there isn't a lot of that, and make it playable for anywhere from 6 up.
Okay. Well, what would you say is the unique feature of the game? Let's take the Marvel out of the side. We've seen in a lot of games where there's some unique thing that the game pumps up to really show you what makes it special and different from other games on the market.
Now, I've been playing games a while now, and a lot of things that I like, and one of the things that I've been looking for in the game is destruction and the ability to break things in game. Now, a lot of games don't include that, but this game does it beautifully. This game allows you to throw cars, throw characters into cars, into buildings. My first game, I threw a car, a lamppost, and a building at Spider-Man, and it made it feel like that was it's not clunky at all. It really puts it into the game in a way that allows it to feel very fluid. And I think that's really. I mean, I've destroyed things in games where it's just like you hit it, you do damage, it's gone. But this one, you can throw things and move things in a way that affects the board and the other characters in an awesome way.
Well, I think the first time I saw this game was at the Nova Open 2019. That's where Fantasy Flight had the Black Site Studios underground subway system. And they said trash cans, you can throw them.
Yep.
So we've seen that in other games where terrain, like Kilting, can have special rules. This is the first one I've seen where you actually can pick up terrain and move it to some other side of the board as just a regular feature of the game.
Yeah. I mean, even the terrain itself has a number at the bottom of it that corresponds to the size of the terrain. And that in itself is played into the game to how much damage it does to somebody, who can pick it up, who can throw it. So not all characters can pick up buildings, but of course there's the Hulk who can. And then of course there's trash cans, which anybody can pick up and throw at each other. So it really incorporates the size of the terrain and the characters who can pick them up and throw them.
Okay. Now let's look at this rule book here. Something I've noticed, like rule book, this is pretty thin.
It's very thin.
How much of this is actually rules and how much of it is fluff here?
I'd say about 80% of it is rules, because it being a box game where you get everything included. What they did in the back is include instructions on how to build everything, which is really nice because not a lot of games do that. And it's all included in the same pamphlet. But also, you also have some fluff on the characters, which is nice. You go through the different characters, shows the miniatures painted and everything. But pretty much everything else is either learning how to play. There's a quick start option, so you can learn exactly how to play. And then the rest is pretty much the nitty gritty of the game. And it really goes in depth with showing you examples of play and different things and how things interact.
I think we've had some of the issues like Osprey Games is horrible at giving examples.
Very much
I think
so.
even with Fantasy Flight's Legion rulebook, they don't provide a lot of examples. Would you say this is better on that? So if like I crack this open and they explain the rule, I have a good chance that they'll actually demonstrate that
This
rule?
goes through pretty much everything you need to know. Like if you want to know how a building will interact if hit by two characters at the same time, I think it goes through that in this book. I mean, it has some of the smallest little things that you come across. And that's what I really like about this is it's organized and it's also set up so that you can learn the game really nice.
Well, let's talk about how the gameplay is organized. Is this a 2-person, 3-person, 4-person game? 3x3, 4x4? How does this whole thing go down?
So now it is set up to be a 2-player game, but with more characters coming out and the flexibility of the rules, you really can play with 10 people each playing one character. Now, definitely some of the characters, there's a balance issue there, but you could still play with as many people as you want. Because there is some synergy with some of the heroes, but all in all, it is a game where you could play one character versus another character and have a lot of fun.
All right, so we're facing off against each other. How does this game balance? Like, how do I form a faction? So you're talking about like, how many players do I get in? Is it like 1,000 points? How's that set up? Like my good guys versus bad guys.
So in this one, it's called threat level. So each character has threat level. So the threat level is usually set at 10. And so characters have anywhere from 2 threat level all the way to, I think Hulk is 6 threat level. So in a basic game, you're going to have anywhere from 2 to 3 characters at most.
Now, when I buy these characters, can I customize them? Is there any customizability in this? Like, can I get a threat level 5 Hulk or a threat level 7? Can you play around with some of the stats that way?
So the threat level isn't so the threat level isn't changeable, and the cards are set in a way that uh, there is no, you can't change how a character is, but you have a deck, a hand of cards, of ability cards that you can personalize.
Okay. So kind of like X-Wing that Fantasy Flight did, where you're
Yes.
changing the loadout on the ships. Okay. Now, is this just like a drop-in game? Like I show up like Kill Team, let's drop in, play a game? Or is this a campaign system? Can I string together like 10 scenarios?
This is very much a drop-in game, but it also has potential to be a really awesome campaign game. I could see them in future making like campaigns where you go through like the Secret Scroll Invasion, or even Civil War, or the Age of Ultron. There's things like that where you could actually play through your favorite comic book events.
So we can play the movies.
Exactly.
Okay. So you could actually set up this like all the different scenes in the movie and just play through that and say, let's reenact this scene.
Exactly.
Okay. That sounds very interesting. Now, are there any scenarios in this book? If they don't really have a campaign system, do they have like a range of scenarios they can play? I mean, are we just like sitting down and like, let's fight? Or are there objectives?
So you could totally do that, but so one of the awesome things about this game, so in the book, there is one scenario, and that's just your basic starting scenario. It shows you exactly where to put terrain and everything, so you can learn how to play in the most balanced way possible. But other than that, there's cards, the Daily Bugle cards. One of them sets up. You could do anywhere from 1 to 2 cards, and that they set up how the gameplay goes. So they each have, one of them will have, you get points for controlling objectives, and there's another one that says you get points for collecting power shards. So it depends on what you want to play. So the gameplay is super variable, where it has different cards that you can set up different kinds of scenarios.
Now, those chosen at random, do you draw those randomly?
You can,
Okay.
because they are cards. So you can just shuffle them up and deal 2 out, and that's your game. Or you can go through and be like, okay, I want to set up something that's, let's do Iron Man 3, where it's Iron Man trying to get the Extremis suits.
Okay. Well, the reason I bring that up is because I've noticed with some of these games, and I think Fantasy Flights avoided it, except for X-Wing 1.0, min-maxing. So by throwing in the randomness of the scenario and there's a wide enough range, if this develops into like a tournament scene or even playing in shop, you don't want the same guy, like everyone shows up with the same 3 characters to do the battle, because in the meta, that's the dominant side of the game. And like, okay, if I bring these 3 figures, I'm always going to win no matter what.
I had that same thought when the first time I played this game. And so I had my opponent have a higher threat level than me, just to see what an unbalanced game would look like. I ended up winning that game, which really showed me that this game has the ability to balance itself out, even if both sides are not balanced. So they really made this game to be both a really good balance game for regular drop-in play or even competitive play.
Okay, because I think as a dealer, if you're stocking this game, one of the biggest turnoffs is when little Tommy shows up and he buys his first 3 characters, and he drops in a game, and he can never win. And his only way to win is to buy $200 of figures, because you need this card from this set, and you need that miniature to create the ideal mix. But being able to just say, well, I buy 3 figures, I can be competitive for the end of time.
Exactly. And I think that's what this game is going towards, is that no matter what you buy, whether you miss a couple of releases or don't want to get all the releases, you're still going to have the ability to play against somebody that has every single card, has every single character, because there are balancing factors to it.
All right. What would you say this game is missing right now? Like, so you bought this box, and I know you're probably going to buy every expansion that comes
Knowing
out
me,
after.
yes.
But so I buy the base box. What would you say the game's missing?
A game mat. That's the big thing. It's such a thematic game that a game mat pushes it from amazing to outstanding. As the last couple games I've been playing on a kill team size board. Of course, this game is meant to be on a 3x3 board, like most Asmodee games. But even on just a simple kill team board that has a street on it, it makes it thematic, it makes it immersive, and it really changes everything. But that's definitely one thing that I noticed that isn't in the box, and they are releasing mats later, which will add to the amazingness of this game. But another thing I would like to see from this game is a token pack. One of the things that I would like is people to be able to not be able to buy the main box if they don't want to, but go and buy everything separate and be able to play. Without a token box, that I don't see that as a possibility.
I guess you'd have to wait for like Etsy to come out with like little acrylic pieces or something,
Exactly.
as it always happens, but we're still new on that. All right, where do you hope this game goes?
I really want to see narrative campaigns. I want to be able to play against Ultron and like we get more minions and be able to play through some of the movies or the comic book arcs, things like that, where you get more story than just drop-in fights.
All right, so let's ask this. Why should you play this game?
First off,
sell me in a sentence. Why should I play this game?
It's superheroes fighting supervillains. Classic tale. Marvel's getting so big with the movies and so iconic that this game really puts everything together in a way that you can continue those stories in your own home.
All right, then why shouldn't you play this game? Sell me the bad parts.
If you like DC and don't like Marvel at all, then I would stay away from this game.
If you like Batman better.
There's another miniature game for that over there.
You bring up a good point. What's Batman scaled at? Is that 28 millimeter?
Batman is 32 millimeter.
Is this 32 millimeter?
This is 40 millimeter. That's another big point in this game is that it's a little larger scale than most other miniature games. So the terrain that it comes with and the characters that are in it can't really be interchanged with other games. Although the terrain does look good with 28 millimeter, there is still that size creep that is noticeable.
So I think that's probably my biggest turn off to the game because I love the terrain that you showed me and it'd be super easy to paint. But the problem is that I'm already sunk in deep on 6 millimeter, 15 millimeter, 28 millimeter, 40 millimeter. I don't even know a game that plays 40
There's
millimeter.
not a lot of
I'll
40
jam
millimeter
32
games.
millimeter down and just say they're really tall.
Exactly.
But 40 millimeter, so they really made a statement here. It's like, we're in the 40 millimeter world. We're by ourselves.
So I've been calling
it. Makes it easy for a 9-year-old to paint.
Very much so. Yes. And honestly, I really like the 40 millimeter scale in this aspect. I don't see myself moving into any other games that are 40 millimeter, if there are any. But honestly, I've started calling this the Marvel scale, because there's heroic scale. So I can't say that this isn't heroic scale. This is the Marvel scale. The miniatures are very detailed. They're very nice. They do comic book heroes just so much justice that this is the game, and I get why they did 40 millimeter. And after putting them together and after playing, it really needs to be 40 millimeter.
You know, I think with the Marvel side, we'll probably see what next. Well, there's no Crystal Brush, but Adepticon, whatever painting competitions run, I can see within a year these Marvel figures dominating some of the painting competitions there.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to bring a whole new crowd of the Marvel painters who just stayed in their own conventions coming into ours.
Exactly. Now we're going to be like comic book artists coming in and being like, oh, I want to paint a 3D version of the superhero that I painted back in the day. And now I have a 3D representation of this superhero that I painted. And I just joined a Facebook group that's all about comic book painting on miniatures. And the stuff that's coming out with these is absolutely astounding. And what people are really doing with these miniatures is going to be absolutely amazing. I cannot wait for more releases, and I cannot wait to see what people do with the painting of these miniatures.
All right. Well, thank you very much for. I know you went on a limb and bought this game, but
Everything.
I think we'll call that a close to this episode at Miniature Wargaming Labs. If you enjoyed Marvel, Crisis Protocol is probably for you.
Get it? It's a great game, and it has my full backing.
Be seeing you.
Bye.